Okay, you can hear me? No? Check, check. Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of 1600 Unscripted. I'm your host, Adam Villarreal, the fugitive J6er. And today we have a very special guest. We are going to be interviewing Lear Hoopes, former councilwoman and an advocate for election integrity across the country. Let's get her on the line.
Hello.
Hello, Leah. You're live in front of the White House on 1600 Unscripted. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Nice to be here with you, Adam.
Wonderful. So today's guest is a woman whose courage has shaken the foundations of local government corruption in Pennsylvania. Lear Hoopes is not just a whistleblower. She's a blueprint for citizen power. She stood up for election integrity and paid the price, but she's still standing. So welcome. Leah, for people hearing your name for the first time, how would you describe what you've been through these past 4 years?
To be quite honest, it's been pure hell, but also a great awakening to witness. I really could not do this without, honestly, my putting on my armor of God every day and having faith in God, and also the great Americans that I've met over the past 5 years. I've really been retaliated against, not only by my local government, but also the state and federal government. For five straight years, because I exercised my First Amendment right to petition my government and redress my grievances.
Wow. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what brought you here. What was the moment in the Delaware County during the 2020 election that made you realize something was wrong and compelled you to speak out?
It really started in 2019. I became a local committee woman for the Republican Party, and my county had switched from Republican to Democrat after being run by Republicans for 150 years. And obviously the pandemic that happened in 2020 when they shut the country down, I was out networking with everybody that I possibly could out in Harrisburg, all over Pennsylvania and all over the country. And I was heavily involved with the Trump campaign. I ended up becoming an alternate elector, but before all that had happened, I had brought in some fantastic people that I had met just through social media networking, and we started investigating heavily Delaware County and noticed that our district attorney was Soros bought, that we had Mark Zuckerberg money coming into our elections, and that they were completely changing our election processes, which raised a lot of red flags. We investigated and got heavily involved with a lot of great people. And we set up on election day and put people in the right places. And we caught them committing massive election fraud on November 3rd, 2020.
Wow. So your work in Delaware County has connected you to a broader election integrity efforts and even the January 6th movement. Can you share with us how you see your fight aligning with the January 6th movement, and what does that shared struggle mean to you? A lot of our listeners are January 6ers and affiliates and supporters.
Absolutely. So I've met some wonderful people along the way, like I said, up in Harrisburg. Two of those people are Sandy Weyer and Lynn Nestor, who are both January 6ers, who suffered greatly for being at the Capitol that day and exercising their First Amendment. So that's one of the things that we have in common, is that not only are they patriots, I'm a patriot myself, but I believe in fighting for to exercise our rights. You know, everyone was there that day to obviously, protest a stolen election, which we all know was stolen from President Trump and others. So what you saw that day was a setup. And what happened after that is the complete destruction of our constitutional rights. Whether you're a witness like myself and you filed a petition in the government, or you were protesting, no matter what it is, we're all suffering the same way, in the sense that we are losing and our constitutional rights are being eroded. But what really brings me so much interest, especially with the January 6ers, and Adam, we've talked about this, is obviously going after the prosecutorial misconduct. the January Sixers, not only were they thrown in a gulag to be completely, silenced and tortured, but they lost their rights to due process, including, things of not being able to, have habeas corpus, not being able to speak with their attorneys, having exculpatory evidence never presented on their behalf. So there's a million things that I could go over, but it really ties into what I'm witnessing when I'm fighting in the courts, and I represent myself in the courts, and I've won. But the way that I win is because I'm going after these prosecutors, and I'm using tactical strategies that attorneys do not use, and we can go into that a little bit. I really like to be able to help these January Sixers do what I do.
Absolutely. So there's been talk lately in the past few weeks about figures like Kash Patel and the senior members of the FBI reviewing 2020 election and integrity interference claims. How does that strike you now as something that you've been advocating for years? How does that feel with that information coming out?
I mean, I feel like it seems like on the surface it's great. I've been through this long enough to know that I take nothing at face value. I wait for people to actually act. I don't want to see them blaming China because the election was really stolen right by our own government. And the actors that are inside the Office of Inspector General, the actors inside of the DOJ, the actors inside of Congress and the Senate, and including Joseph Biden and everybody else that was involved. So I don't want to see them point the finger away to the actual communists and the Marxists that live inside of this country and stole that election.
So you feel like it's an equal distribution, that there's enemies foreign and domestic, and by pigeonholing, we do a disservice. Am I hearing that correctly?
You're hearing that 100% correct. I'm not saying that we don't have foreign interference. That's been going on for forever and ever. Just like we interfere with elections as well. So it goes both ways. But what's going to happen here is once you start to point the finger towards only a foreign country, you've completely just washed away everything that has transpired over the past 5 years to the January Sixers and to witnesses like myself and people that have been persecuted for exercising their rights.
How do you feel like corporate corruption and lobbying interests play a factor into the game? Recently, there was an explosive interview between Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene, where they were talking about the influence of AIPAC dollars on Congress. How do you feel that and corporate influence plays a role into election interference?
Well, I mean, you're really only looking at, if you want to put it in a nutshell, it's criminal RICO. They're being heavily influenced, and what's happening and transpiring is that they have so much money, not just, private money, but you're also talking about their ability to use public funds to retaliate against the people, which is a crime in and of itself. The lobbying and everything else that goes on, I believe it serves some purpose, but the amount of dark money really needs to be heavily investigated. And I've done that. I've done just that. And so have others, in Delaware County. But my work kind of speaks for itself. And I really do get into a lot of the private funding and the NGOs and the Tides Foundation. And I could go on and on and on about, how they use that money to go after the whistleblowers and witnesses and the people.
Well, that brings us to our next point of talk. We really want to hear about you face significant pushback for speaking out. What kind of pressure and retaliation tactics have you faced in your journey?
I was a co-defendant with President Trump in a defamation case in Philadelphia. So my name has been all over the news for the past 5 years. I've had the FBI at my front door, the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. I have gone through a lot of some personal tragedies that I don't really want to speak of at the moment, but it will come out at some point. Mental health, the trauma that I've experienced. I've had death threats. I get trolled all the time. My son has suffered tremendously from him becoming a target as well. My family they've taken harassment and backlash. It's par for the course. And then also, I've been sued 3 times now. I'm still dealing with this last case, but I've won 2 of those cases against me, representing myself, using the tactics that I would like to be able to teach others to use. So that's the short list, to say the least.
You've uncovered what many people are calling a textbook case of First Amendment retaliation, and you have billing records, court filings, and even newspaper quotes to prove it. That's what I've heard from previous conversations with you. What exactly are Delaware County officials and their attorneys accused of in your lawsuit? And what key evidence are you supporting?
I have anywhere from public meeting minutes to actual billing records from Dwayne Morris Law Firm, to admissions from the district attorney's office, public records requests that I have filed when it comes to criminal investigations or the lack thereof. They're all coordinating with each other, and it goes all the way up to the top, to the White House. And one of the biggest criminals we have is our governor, Governor Josh Shapiro, an installed governor, by the way, but he was the attorney general and a Biden elector during the 2020 election. But he's orchestrated a lot of this, which I can prove as well. But they've also fabricated and spoliated evidence, and they've suppressed public records. They have destroyed public records. They've redacted a lot of information that really isn't any kind of privileged information. They've misused public funds. They fraudulently billed. This is, it comes down to bad faith and public corruption is what I can prove and have proven in court.
That sounds terribly serious, Leah. If small town retaliation legally goes unchecked like this, what's at stake for the country as a whole?
So I really do talk about how I feel like people have made a very big mistake of doing the top-down approach, when in reality how we've kept this republic for so long is by staying in our own backyards. And the best place where you have the most power is right in your local counties, by taking them back one county at a time. But really, they are the goons that do the most damage, anywhere from, taking your kids through CYS, or, stealing your land from you, or stealing your tax dollars, or, filing a lawsuit against you just because they can. This is how they keep their power. And this is how they keep people from coming forward, because it intimidates people, except for me. I'm not intimidated by this at all. I actually am. I embrace conflict.
Well, Leah, that's one of the reasons that we're highlighting you on the show. We like to show off that ordinary citizens can, in fact, fight back, and especially to use modern technology tools like AI to investigate, expose corruption, and connect the dots like you have your own forensic team. Can you talk a little bit about your use of AI in your current corruption case and how you were able to showcase that?
Oh, absolutely. It's been a great tool. I really didn't start using, AI until probably about 4 or 5 months ago. But I can tell you that I am an open source investigator, so I am able, to figure out a lot of things just through public, source documents, and I actually put a lot of the dots together on my own. So ever since I found, kind of ChatGPT and other AI systems, it's been a blessing, because it's able to do a lot of the formulating of these, these court filings. And of course, once again, they've tried to weaponize that against me, which is not going to pan out so well. They were upset that I've been using AI and ChatGPT and saying it's just not fair, while I'm literally fighting a $694 million law firm that has access to paralegals, and they're actually their own AI systems, and Westlaw and Law 360. They're angry and pissed off that I've actually beat them at their own game. So that's been at the help of, obviously, the internet and AI. It's been quite fantastic.
So for the average person who might be experiencing this law at the hand of a corrupt local judiciary, what can you tell them? What keeps you going? What tips can you give on how to fight back?
Well, one of the biggest things that you can do is you have to understand who's in your local government and who the contractors are. So understanding the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and the how. You have to start there first. You have to understand the foundation of your government and why they're there, and who's funding them. But also, to me, I feel like you should have a great understanding of what your rights are, what your constitutional rights are, and also you should with 100% courage, you should be fighting against any of this lawfare or any intimidation tactics by your government. I mean, that's the whole reason we have a country. We fought against kings, and now we have our republic, and it's eroded for such a long time because too many people have sat back and allowed the government to do what they're doing. So I think this is the best time, because there's nowhere else to go if we don't start fighting back.
Which dovetails right into, we have to support each other, patriots. Leah, how can we support you right now in your case? Also, if you have a book or if you have Give, Send, Go, can you let the audience know about that right now?
Absolutely. So Greg Stenstrom and I wrote a book called The Parallel Election. You can find it at theparallelelection.com. We wrote that back in 2022. You can follow me on X. So it's Hoopes, HOOPES _ Leah, LEAH. If you can just tag people like President Trump, Kash Patel, Ed Martin, and raise awareness to my fight. It's not just my fight; it's my fight for our country.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Leah. If there's anything else that you would like to address to the audience and the nation in front of the White House right now, here's your chance.
I just want to say I'm very proud to be an American, and I really do feel like God has brought me to this point and has built me for this. And you too one person can make a difference. Don't lose faith, and keep fighting the good fight.
All right, Leah, thank you so much for joining us today on 1600 Unscripted, live in front of the White House.
Thank you, Adam.
Take care. All right, everyone, thank you for joining us. We'll have another show for you next week. If you'd like to read more about my story and my time on the run, head over to Amazon.com and look up Capital Punishment, J6 Fugitive Story by Adam Villarreal. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. A big shout out to our Chinese American patriots. Thank you for your continued support for the show.
Thank you, patriots. Thank you for all your support. Thanks, Adam. Keep doing his best. Even the weather, it's very hot, very hot in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much, Adam. And I want to tell our J6 community, I'm going to attend Bart's ceremony on Wednesday. We will see you there. Thank you, patriots. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. It's good.